Throughout history, there was an infinite number of stories about war and the tragedies that come from it, and stories of people and families running for their lives from war and starting a new life in a different country. Nowadays, the region with the most amount of these type of stories is the Middle East, especially the northern countries like Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine. And certain short film on Netflix was made to show some of the hardships that come with living in a different country after running from war. And the short film is Aziza, made in 2019. Aziza is a short film directed by Sept and produced by KAF Production. It premiered on January 25, 2019 at the Sundance Film Festival and was awarded the Short Film Grand Jury Prize. And it's the story of Ayman and his wife Alia, a Syrian couple living in Lebanon after escaping the war, and to move on with their new life in this new country. He tries to help his wife learn how to drive, but since his car named Aziza was the last thing left for him from his home, he hesitates to let her drive it on the road. Sept is a Syrian director born in France. She studied theater criticism in the Higher Institute of Dramatic Arts in Syria and filmmaking in St. Joseph University, Lebanon. Her films have screened at several venues nationally and internationally and have received international awards. Her first feature fiction film, The Day I Lost My Shadow, was awarded the Lion of the Future Award for Best Debut Film in Venice Film Festival 2018 and has been screened in several festivals, TIFF, BFI, Busan, and IFFR. Her recent short film Aziza won Sundance Grand Jury Prize in 2019. Starring as the main character, Ayman, the migrant and the owner of the car Aziza, is none other than Abdelmunam Ameri. Is a Syrian Palestinian actor who was born in the Jo'na village east of the Palestinian city on 18 January 1970. He graduated from the Department of Acting from the High Institute of Dramatic Arts and then started his acting career in television drama in 1997. Some of his prominent works include Tharaya, Hamam al-Qayshani, Piqa, ضوء, Wilda min el-Khasira, and Asrar al-Medina. The woman starring as Alia, who is the wife of Ayman in this film, is Karis Bashar. She was born on 16 February 1976. She is a Syrian film and TV actress. She has played many roles on Syrian soap operas. Her only feature film is Usama Mohamed's The Box of Life. And these talented individuals, with their years of experience and knowledge, combined their efforts creating this beautiful short film that reflects both real life and imagination. Even though this film is not based on a real story, it still tells the reality of refugees and immigrants, and in this case, it was in the land of the enemy. The main points and themes of this short film are the results of war and the effects it had on the innocent people that get caught up in the events outside of their control, and how they try to move on and live despite losing their home. Each of the two characters deal with loss and grief in different ways, and it shows throughout the film. Each of the points mentioned above are proven, evidenced in the film. It was apparent from the beginning of the film that there was some sort of tension or hatred between the Syrians and the Lebanese, as in the first few seconds of the film when they introduced the wife, Alia, the husband was talking to her and he said, "A Syrian in Lebanon? They are definitely going to break this car." And just a bit after that, he said that driving around here is dangerous. And after that, when their imagination started running wild and they ran over an imaginary person, Ayman said, "Do you know what it means for a Syrian to kill someone from here in Lebanon?" And after that, when Alia walked out of the garage and Ayman followed her, we could see some rubble in the background as a result of the war. And right next to the rubble, there was a big banner with some Arabic and English writing on it saying, "Syria out and Syrians get out." It could be said that a lot of the tension and hatred between the two people came from the war, even though what war it was or when wasn't really mentioned. It is very clear that it was an important event that changed the characters' lives, as it was the main reason they are living in Lebanon to begin with. A lot of hints were given about that war throughout the film, but in the dialogue and the background and environment surrounding the characters. One of the biggest hints is the car itself, known as Aziza. It is the only property the characters have from their home in Syria, and Ayman kept repeating the same phrase all the time. Aziza is the only thing we have left. Because of the war, the couple had to leave everything they had and escape to another country. There is also the cassette that Ayman keeps on playing. Ayman played it twice, in the beginning of the film and at the end, where it transitioned into credits rolling. Alia asked him, "Don't you have any other cassettes?" It's most likely to be the last cassette he has from his home. Other than the car, one of the most mentioned things related to the war is their house in Syria. When Ayman was following Alia with the car, he told her, "We lost our home." And later on, when Alia was driving and she started panicking, Ayman told her to imagine and pretend that they are still in Syria to calm her down. And he said the exact phrase, "Our house wasn't blown up yet," indicating that they lost their house in the war because rockets were shot at their house. After a long time of Ayman refusing to let his wife drive his car, he finally gave up and even apologized to his car because of what he was about to do. When Alia was driving, she kept on complaining about the other drivers, and she said, "No one is stopping on the traffic signs. And where even are those traffic signs that no one is stopping by?" If we connect the fact that there are no traffic signs on the road with the fact that some walls were destroyed around the roads, it is very likely that those traffic signs were knocked down during the war due to explosions and fighting that happens on the roads. In the first scene, when they were in the garage, Ayman's imagination was running wild, so that even us, the audience, could hear all the sounds and chaos in his imagination. It is possible that the reason behind how realistic his imagination is comes from the trauma and the real experience he faced during the war. Because a lot of people were trying to escape the country, you could imagine the chaos that ensues, which sounds exactly like what showed in Ayman's imagination. One of the main points of the film is how characters deal with loss and grief, and it's evidenced in how they act and talk. And since one of the characters is a man and the other one is a woman, we can see that the film intentionally emphasized how each gender acts in those situations and with those feelings. The personalities of each character also reflects that very well. Ayman is more collected and calmer, while Alia is very emotional and annoyed. And they act that way because of the hard times they face. Ayman as a man is more likely to bottle all of his emotions inside and act normal despite panicking inside and carrying a lot of heavy burdens and stress secretly, which is also more likely to make those emotions blow up at some point, or when the person reaches his limits and his emotions start leaking out. From the beginning of the film, Ayman was calming his wife every time she gets mad or tries to leave, but at the same time, the wild and scary imagination he showed while teaching Alia driving reflects his emotions and stress. In the end, his emotions didn't blow up in a rageful way, but it clearly leaked out and let all his emotions out, as shown throughout the film. After Alia got rageful and started hitting his car, he went and hugged her to calm her down. And every time she struggled with driving, he told her to just pretend to be fine and act as if everything was fine, because that's how he was dealing with stress every time. And even at the end, when they stopped by that beach, he started crying. and he told his wife to keep pretending that everything is okay, but she just hugged him anyway, the same way he hugged her earlier. On the other hand, Alia, as a woman, she had no problem letting out her emotions and act according to them. Every time Ayman talks about how much he loves his car, Aziza, she showed on her face that she's annoyed. And when she gets angry at him, she left the car, and when her husband went overboard, she started raging and shouting at him. She even hit his car, and when the car stopped in the middle of the road and the other drivers were honking at her, she shouted at them. It was a way for her to release all the stress and burdens from her shoulders. And since she was at that point less burdened than him, it was suitable for her to be the one hugging her husband and help him let out his emotions, which is what happened at the end of the film. One of the biggest differences between how the two genders generally deals with loss is in how they focus their emotions on a single thing. And in Ayman's case, it was the car. Aziza, because it's the only property he still has from his home, Syria, which is why he is so overprotective over it, that he is even willing to rent an entire other car to teach his wife driving so that Aziza would be safe, which was evidenced in the scene after Alia got rageful at him and him calming her down. War is a central part of civilization and human history. The world wouldn't have advanced the way it did without war, but at the same time, it's the birth of tragedies. Some people try to move on past those tragedies and some don't. Some turn to the extreme and some are left scarred for eternity, both physically and mentally. Some of those who try to move on end up focusing their attention towards the positivity and only thinking about what they still have. But in certain cases, the thing that is carrying their happy memories also carries with them the nightmares of war as well, which is the case with Ayman in the film Aziza. The car is a representation of everything he lost in the war and also everything he still has, which is why it's called Aziza, which means dear or precious. It might not be the healthiest way to live, but it's the only option for a lot of people who fall as victims to war, which is why we always have to hold close everything and everyone we love, because we don't know when we might lose them and end up having a car as the last thing to hang on to. Thank you for watching.